Hello there and welcome back. I am in Kenya as promised. I'm giving you an update from our first day here in Kenya. I'll be giving a couple of more updates, but I did want to give you some takeaways. I'm actually in a Kenya church right now as we speak, and we had some cool stuff happen yesterday, and I wanted to let you guys know about it. So this video will be a little bit different than some of the ones that I've had on my channel, but then again, it'll be a lot of similarities because I'm giving you takeaways. I'm trying to give you lessons that I've learned, and I learned a few cool lessons yesterday. First off, it took us, I think about 23 hours, the whole trip from Atlanta to New York and New York to Nairobi, and then Nairobi, a bus ride, a 4-hour bus drive into the Segera area. So about 23 hours worth of travel time. So I'm a little hoarse, and it is bright and early. It's about 6:30 here in Kenya time, local Kenya time. I hadn't had a whole lot of sleep, so please pardon the morning face. Anyway, we went to a school yesterday, and of course, on our trips, one of the stops is schools where you get to meet the children and love on them and talk to them and find out their aspirations and really just give them the affirmation and love of God. That was really cool, and we always do that. And they dance for us, and the teachers put on a ceremonial dance, and I'll try to add some pictures of that later so you guys can sneak in and get a sneak peek of what I'm talking about and get a visual of what I'm talking about. But here was the biggest takeaway for me yesterday, and it was when the second half of the day we walked through the Maasai warrior community, which that community is a vast open kind of desert but little bushy area that you can see for miles and miles and miles. And you might see a little stick hut that they've put together, which is called a boma. And the women actually put together those bomas. They're the house builders in the family, and they migrate. When they run out of green pasture for their herd, they move to another area, and the wife builds another boma. And that's where they live as long as the land is green around them. So you might see 2 or 3 bomas together, and then another half-mile away, you'll see another boma or 2 there. So we walked through that community because we wanted to teach them and introduce them and invite them to the Jesus film. If you've never heard of that, look it up, the Jesus film. It's one of the most translated videos, the story of Jesus from birth to death and resurrection, that's translated into so many different languages, including Swahili and Maasai, which are the 2 languages that they speak here where we are. So we were inviting them to come see that video, which we're going to show today, which is kind of cool. But when we were walking around inviting them and telling them the story of Jesus just briefly and kind of teasing the idea and inviting them to hear and see the rest of the story, and most of these people have never seen a movie. They call it a cinema, I think. But they've heard of it, but they haven't seen it. So they're intrigued just for that fact alone that they haven't seen something like that. So we're inviting them. But one of the families that we went to, and we're talking to the wives and the little bitty kids, because the males, the men, are out in the town or with their herd or sleeping under a tree. They have a different day, different daily routine than the women do. The women pretty much do everything, so kudos to them. But they don't get any affirmation or any love or any accolades or appreciation for that role. They just have to do it. So we're loving on them, inviting them. But as we're talking to one, this old lady, she had to have been in her 80s, comes wobbling up with a cane, and she's completely blind. Comes wobbling up, and they help her get a chair, and she joins them, and she's like the matriarch of that little huddle there of family, and she's completely blind. And we're talking about Jesus and all this, and then it just convicted me so bad. I'm thinking, okay, if we're here sharing Jesus and the Holy Spirit is stirring clearly with us and anointing this trip, why don't I have enough faith to pray for this lady and pray that she be healed? Because God heals, right? God can heal her. And I was praying, I was like, God, you know, I know you can do this, and I want to pray, but Father, I don't want to make anything awkward or wrong and, do this powerful prayer for healing and nothing happens. So I start wrestling with my faith, which is really a challenge, and I'm sure some of you have been there before. But I clearly did. I wrestled with that and prayed even for a sign. God, just show me something. Show me something in the clouds as other people are talking. I'm looking for the sign. Hey, you say go, and I'm in because I'm ready to do this, but I don't want to do it. So that whole internal conversation, wrestling, that battle that I was having was real. But here's what happened. After we left there, and we did pray over them and all that, but I didn't do the whole healing prayer. But after I left, I was thinking, you know what? A cool angle that I could have taken, and we should all take this angle, maybe, just kind of came to me. In my faith wrestling and, what I believe or what I don't believe. And, with prayer plus faith can do mighty, mighty things. We all know that in the Christian walk. But I'm thinking, I've got 1,000% faith that God can heal her. And that's what I go in with in prayer is God can heal you. And God, the creator of the universe, loves you, specifically you. And if he chooses to, he can heal you if it's according to his will. So I'm wrestling with that. And I'm just looking for some kind of sign, some kind of something to give me the go-ahead to do that. But it didn't. I didn't get the peace or the conviction or the prompting to do that, to follow through with that. So we did pray for them and we moved on. But here's what hit me after we moved. I thought this angle might have been a good one to take, that God, certainly could, but we need to align our prayer with will. And I was wrestling with that whole faith thing, the whole faith issue. And then I thought of one of the strongest faith stories in the Bible is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and how these guys will not bow down to King Nebuchadnezzar as their God. And he required that amongst all his people, that they bow down to him, that they bow down in front of him. And they absolutely refused to, because they wanted to bow to the true God, our God, the one true God. And the punishment for that is to be thrown into the furnace, this big cavern that's flaming hot and fire, and they just to be burned alive. That's the punishment for doing that. So the king gives them one more chance. He's like, hey, guys, you need to bow down to me because I'm the king. Otherwise, here's your fate. You're going to be thrown into the fire. And they say, no, we're not going to bow down to you because our God will save us. Our God will take care of us because he's the true God. And then, of course, they get thrown into the fire. And the king actually makes it 7 times hotter than it's ever been before. And they're in there, and people are looking in at them, and they see 4 people, not just 3, because Jesus was in there with them, according to the story. And after it's done, they just come walking out, and they don't even smell like smoke. God protected them through that. That's a great little Bible story, and it's, the truth, and it's a factual of what actually happened. And we hear that as kids growing up in Sunday school. Maybe you've heard it or read about that story. And it's a great faith story, and you think, wow, what if I had that kind of faith? What if I could apply that level of faith to this lady and her blindness, that I could lean into that? But here's the key phrase in that story, in that Bible story, that most people overlook. Even I have overlooked it. But when the king gives them one more shot to bow down to him, and they say, no, we're not going to do that because our God will save us, comma. But even if he doesn't, he's still our God. He's still the King of Kings. And I'm paraphrasing, of course. But that's what it says, even if he doesn't. So is such a great example of acknowledging that God is the King. He is above all. There is none above him. And he can do this. He can save us. But even if he doesn't, we're still going to acknowledge that he's King of Kings. I could have taken that angle with this lady, this blind lady. And next time, I hope that I have the ability and the strength to be able to do that, and the bravery to do that, to when I see something like that, that, you know what, I'm going to go in and pray and just acknowledge the King of Kings, and that he can do this, and he knows you and loves you. And we're going to pray according to his will, that he do this, that he step in on your behalf and make this happen, that he heal you, he heal your crippledness, your blindness, whatever's going on in your life, heals your family, heals, your marriage. But even if he doesn't, we're going to lean into that and know that he's got a higher purpose. Maybe there's a trial that you're going through that he's got a bigger purpose for. His ways are way higher than ours, and we can't question that. But if we go in with that attitude, that God, you can, and I've got 1,000% faith that you are King of Kings and you can do this. And if you will, that would be awesome. But even if you don't, you're still King of Kings, and I still acknowledge that. That was my takeaway from yesterday. I hope you enjoy that. I hope this video made sense. Like I said, I am kind of limited on technology right now. I'm hoping this camera, this phone is even videoing right now. I hope I don't have to do this again. So take care. Thanks for stopping by. Love you guys. I just wanted to give you an update from Kenya and my takeaway for the day. I hope you enjoy that and apply that into your life.